On the heels of a tournament appearance last season, Todd Golden has his Florida Gators on a roll with a possible #1 seed in the tournament clearly in sight if they finish the season strong. I caught up with Coach Golden yesterday to discuss his expectations for this team and the program as a whole in Gainesville. All right, Coach, thanks so much for joining us. You are in year 3 in Gainesville. You guys are 21-3. You are seemingly breaking records with each passing week, but you are doing it. Your guys are getting through what I would define as adversity. So I wanted to ask you first just about that resiliency. And I want to know if that's a fair adjective to describe your team, or what adjective would you use to describe your team this year?
You know, I think we have a bunch of gritty and tough dudes in our program, and most of all, they care about each other. They get along really well, and I think that's been on display these last couple of weeks. Obviously, we're in the middle of a really nice stretch. We've been playing some really good basketball, and we've been doing that without our full roster. You know, against Vanderbilt, we didn't have Walter, and that allowed the opportunity for Denzel Aberdeen to step up into a starting role where he played 35 minutes with no turnovers, and then we traveled down to Auburn, playing the best team in college basketball this year on the road without Elijah Martin, and another opportunity for Denzel to step up, and some of our younger guys like Tommy Houck and Alex Condon play great games. And then we go on the road to Mississippi State, and Elijah's still out. We lose Kondo 30 seconds into the game. And again, Denzel, Tommy, Urban Klavjar, they step up off the bench and provide great minutes and great production for us. And obviously the usual suspects of Walter Clayton and Will Richard, have been there for us all year. But it's been really nice seeing our younger guys that weren't starters, step up and be able to play really, really well against some really good teams.
When Alex went down in that Mississippi State game, one of the things you said was that it lit a fire under your guys. I wanted to kind of play off that a little bit, because it seems to me that you are coaching with extra fire this year, maybe even more animated than we've seen you in the first couple of years. So if that is a fair observation, where does that stem from?
You know, I think this group has kind of given me a little more passion, a little more excitement, because I feel like we have a very high ceiling. And, we've had a very good season to this point. We feel like we have the ability to make a deep run into the tournament if things break our way. Obviously, we got to get healthy and stay healthy, but this team has shown the ability to play with anybody in America. And specifically, against Mississippi State on Tuesday night, losing such an impactful player 30 seconds of the game, already being down a great starter in Elijah Martin, was something that I felt like our team rallied around. We didn't know exactly what the injury was with Kondo. Like I said, I thought it was a very unique and not necessarily a normal, clean basketball play in which it happened. And not that we necessarily needed any added motivation to win that game. There's a graphic on a tweet that we saw that morning that 7 experts out of 10 predicted Mississippi State to beat us that night. So we used that as a little bit of motivation going into the game. But then losing Kondo, I felt like that was something that our guys definitely did rally around. And, we weren't very happy with the way he went out. And, it kind of gave us a little bit of juice, for the last 39 minutes and 30 seconds of that ball game.
When I talk to people about Todd Golden, the player back at St. Mary's, one of the things I hear pretty consistently is savage competitor. How much does you as a player get reflected in your team this year?
I think a lot. And, I'm proud of that. Our staff has really targeted hard playing, intelligent dudes. And you probably heard this one before because it's from the Kyle Smith tree, having guys that, have great attitudes, great work ethics, but most importantly, want to be here at Florida. I think you can say that about every guy on our roster now. And, we really value competitiveness. We value physical and mental toughness. We value guys that really value being a part of a great team. And, again, we have a lot of underrated guys. We have underdogs. We have guys that kind of have chips on their shoulder to prove that, this isn't some sort of aberration. This isn't, unrealistic for us to be a top 5 team in America at this point. And, I do think we have a very competitive team. And, I try to lead from that standpoint. I think the guys see something in me during games that they don't necessarily see from me in practice or when we're around the facility. And, I do take pride in being a very good competitor.
want to ask you a little bit more about roster construction, but I'm going to come back to Kyle Smith in a minute.
Okay.
I want to ask you specifically about the philosophy of playing with two bigs. You are kind of have this reputation for being data-driven and analytical. I think to some people it seems counterintuitive that you would appear to be committed to two bigs. What is the philosophy behind playing with so much size, especially along the front line?
Yeah, well, it's something that we saw firsthand, in the West Coast Conference from Gonzaga for a number of years, and their ability to play big lineups, be very efficient from two, raise their floor by being a very good rebounding team, and theoretically, when you're bigger, you should be a better defensive team. And so when we got here to Florida, we thought if we could thread the needle of playing similarly to how Gonzaga did, or how Tommy Lloyd played when he first got to Arizona, that it would really raise our floor and allow us to be a team that played in the tournament most years. And when things broke our way, allowed us to make deep runs. And we weren't able to do it in year one. We weren't deep enough. We weren't big enough. Last year we started, it was our first year, and offensively, we were able to thread that needle. We were very efficient offensively, but we were a little disjointed on the defensive end, and we didn't have as high of a ceiling defensively. But now, we play four bigs. We're two bigs more often than not. And again, our front court players are very offensively savvy. They can dribble, they can pass, they can shoot. And when we play a lot of 4-out starts into 3-round 2 action, continuous ball screen action, and we don't play clunky offense. We play a lot like the Warriors did in their prime with Steph and Clay, where you have guys like Draymond and Kayvon Looney, starting as triggers in the offense, playing out of dribble handoffs, playing out of zooms. But we do put pressure on our opponents by being really good on the offensive glass. And so I think having that kind of security blanket, that safety net of being a team that's getting back 40% of your misses, just provides a very high floor for your team. And our guy, again, you need to have bigs that can dribble, pass, and make the occasional jump shot. You have to have bigs that have the IQ to be able to stay out of the way when your guards are probing and making plays in the paint. And we've been able to find guys that fit our style of play very well.
If memory serves me correct, you and I first met about 10 years ago when you were the director of basketball operations at Columbia. Kyle Smith, current Stanford head coach, was the head coach at Columbia. As we look at your resume, the two names that keep coming up are Kyle Smith and Bruce Pearl. And I know coming off that Auburn game, you've talked a lot about Bruce Pearl, the connection, your friendship with Stephen Pearl. I wanted to ask you specifically, though, what if there was one element you took from each of those coaches? Because on the surface, they seem very different. Is there a singular thing you took from each?
Yeah, absolutely. And when people ask me kind of what my basketball background is and kind of who my mentors are in the profession, I talk about Kyle a lot. I talk about Bruce Pearl a lot, and then obviously Randy Bennett, who I played for at St. Mary's. And I kind of put Randy and Kyle in that same bucket because they were together for all those years at St. Mary's, and they're very similar philosophically. And obviously, to your point, Bruce Pearl is very different than both those guys. And so when I look at, what I try to learn, what I did learn from, and what I try to take from Randy and Kyle is just their consistency, their obviously their analytical view of the game, the way they run their programs in the off season, and just the consistency in terms of the way we approach our scouts, the way we approach recruiting, just that consistent, for lack of a better term, analytical viewpoint and analytical mentality in terms of how to run a program, I would say come from them. And then Bruce is the exact opposite, to be honest. He's less analytically driven, but, he was able to get his, and still is obviously able to get his guys to play so hard for him. Bruce's work ethic on the trail, Bruce's work ethic within the program, those 2 years I spent with him at Auburn were second to none. So just his consistent work ethic and the ability to get your guys to play really hard for you. I think those are the things that I pulled from Bruce. And then obviously I try to be something in the middle, where I take on some of my personality and try to blend in the value of what I learned from, those two different leadership groups, for lack of a better term.
All right, I got a little bit of a curveball here as we talk about mentors, because one of the things I was told yesterday is that you were unavailable because you were spending the day with your dad. I wanted to know, another thing that people talk about is your self-belief. I wanted to know if that was something you got from dad or if that came from somewhere else.
That's funny you asked that, because I think, some people, especially more, I would say more as a player, but and Kyle Smith would probably back this up. They would argue that at times in my career that I had an irrational level of self-confidence in terms of my ability to help the team and be a player. Honestly, I think I got a little bit from my mom also. I think she's that way, probably more so than my dad. Just growing up, I was a basketball junkie. My dad played freshman ball at UMass in between Julius Erving and Coach Rick Pitino. There's no way Rick Pitino remembers my dad, but, my dad talks about it all the time. And, just being around the game a lot growing up, kind of gave me the confidence that I knew and understood basketball to a certain level. And I played for a great high school coach, Dan Mannix at Sunny Slope High School in Phoenix, Arizona. And then Steve Rosenbaum, one of my high school assistants. They gave me a lot of confidence in high school in terms of them just telling me they thought I could be a Division I player. And that helped me a lot with confidence in high school. And then playing for Randy and Kyle, they don't give you much opportunity to do anything but be confident, because if you're not going to be able to play for them. But I think just kind of putting all those things in a pot, stirring it up. And, for whatever reason, I do have just a lot of confidence in this world of basketball. I think we have a good understanding of what it takes to be good. And all of those people, I think, were a big part of me gaining that confidence.
My last question for you, Coach, and this is somewhat tongue-in-cheek. Is there a basketball card of Todd Golden in a St. Mary's uniform? And if so, how many do you have? Because I've heard you are an avid collector.
There are none. No company was silly enough to lose any money making any type of cards with me or anybody from my era playing in it. But I am an avid collector. It was something that growing up I spent a lot of time doing, and has been really fun for me and my son over the last couple of years, kind of re-entering the space. I should say we have some really cool ones. My favorite one right now is a Wemby auto, first Bowman, perfect 10 in terms of the autograph, perfect 10 in terms of the card. That one will go down as a very fun one for us to have for a long time. And I hope to continue building that collection out here moving forward for the next decade or so.
Well, that's very cool. And I ask because my son and I are going through a very similar experience of me getting back into it and being able to see it through his eyes. So it's a lot of fun. Coach, I know we're right in the thick of things. Thanks so much for carving out some time for us today, and good luck this weekend.
I appreciate it, Adam. Always great catching up, man. And we'll see you soon. Thank you.
For more on Coach Golden's Gators, be sure to check out swamp247.com for the latest on Florida basketball and recruiting.